guest of St. Mark's here today. My wife Nancy is with me. She's sitting towards the back, and in her prescribed pew, I guess. She always sits towards the back and colors whenever I'm especially while I'm talking. She says it helps her to concentrate, but I think it helps her concentrate on her coloring instead of the word. Anyway, it's great to be with you all. We live here in Casper, so it was nice. We're usually traveling around the diocese on some weekends, so it's nice to be here with you all. We just got back from Minnesota, you know. We were there. I was doing some continuing ed through a Lutheran seminary there, and it got over on Friday, and then we traveled back, got home yesterday. But it was nice to be with some Lutheran folks, our sisters and brothers, in a way of learning together, and you know, we developed a relationship with each other. We met in these, you know, you always meet in small groups and talk, you know, that sort of learning. But we developed a relationship of love by getting to know each other. And yet at the end of our time together, you know, we said our goodbyes, and there was a liturgy for us to say goodbye to each other. And I realized this morning that not a one of us said, I love you. And yet we knew that we loved each other. We didn't have to say I love you. And yet we knew there was love. And that's what this gospel is about. This gospel today is about Jesus. And he's frameworking this love around betrayal and denial. Because Judas is headed out to do the betrayal, and right after this gospel, Peter is going to deny Christ. And I think this gospel is so important, this framework, to understand that Jesus is loving these disciples in between these two acts of betrayal and denial that are aimed directly at him. And so Jesus, you know, he tells them, I'm giving you this new commandment. And he says it's new because you know, the Jews knew that there was already a commandment to love one another, right? It was in Leviticus. I've got it right here. It's in the Bible. It's in the Old Testament. Leviticus 19, you shall not hate in your heart any one of your kin. You shall reprove your neighbor, or you will incur guilt upon yourself. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And so the Jews knew that there was this commandment to love your neighbor. You know, but Jesus is teaching the disciples and us about this new kind of love that exists in another way. This love of Jesus that goes beyond really sometimes, I think, our understanding. And Jesus doesn't tell the disciples, I love you. Right? He doesn't tell them that. I've got that marked here too. It's in the Bible. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. You also should love one another just as I have loved you. Jesus doesn't say, I love you. You need to exhibit the love of Jesus to those around you, even those that might betray you and deny you. You know, Jesus has just washed their feet and broken bread with them. I picture Judas is still kind of munching on the bread that Jesus fed them with as he's headed out the door to perform the act of betrayal. And yet Jesus still says, love one another as I have loved you. No matter how different we are, no matter how much we don't see eye to eye, you can still love each other. And that's the importance of this gospel that Jesus is teaching us. No matter what, we can love one another. And you don't always have to say, I love you. You know, to me, the I love you kind of puts a small framework on love. And I don't know why that is, but it does. It kind of puts a bookend on love. Right? The I love you kind of makes it personal between maybe two people that have known each other for a long time, and they transition to this time of maybe getting married, and then they have the transaction of a wedding. You know, they have the transaction of giving rings to each other, the transaction of publicly sharing their love for each other. I give you this ring as a symbol of my vow. The transaction of love. And so then, you know, the couple most generally, you know, they say, I love you to each other, but it kind of excludes the other people there. And yet the other people are there because they were invited, because the couple loves the people that they invited. And it's so important for those people to witness the love of these two people, but to witness the love of Jesus in the transition and transaction of marriage. And so Jesus is telling us to be witness to this love that is so important. To be witness to this love of caring for everybody. Loving those that maybe are the most hardest to love. I gotta warn you, when my feet are moving, my mouth is open. That's what happens. I don't know why that is, but when my feet are moving, my mouth is open and I'm talking. So just to let you know. But the transition, isn't the transition the hardest part of love? You know, we love our kids, and then they grow up all of a sudden and they leave home and they go out to experience the world. You know, they transition away from us. There's a transition that happens in love, and we so want it to remain the same, and we want it to sit right here. We want love to sit right here. We want to be able to say to those people, I love you, and make it stay right there. And yet love is a transition that cannot stand still. Love is a transition that continually moves and shapes not only us, but those that we love. You know, I was reminded, Nancy's dad was a kind of a hard-scrabble old guy, and he had 6 girls, and I think that's probably why he was kind of a hard-scrabble old guy. But the girls, you know, the girls were in this relationship with their dad, and they would tell him, you know, Dad, I love you. And his response would be, you betcha. He couldn't stop the love and confine it into a I love you. He didn't, you know, I think the transition was hard for him. Transition of moving beyond the I love you into the love of the world. So he would say, you betcha. And so now there's code, you know, there's code for all these sisters, you know, the you betcha. The you betcha. And so we use code sometimes because the transition of love keeps happening. The transition of love that isn't in the moment of I love you, but the love that continually moves and shapes our being. The love that Jesus is talking about. Jesus can't tell the disciples, I love you, because he knows they're going to change, and he is leaving. And this love is going to change, and it's going to transition into this thing called Christianity. Now we don't have a hold on love. There's, you know, all other religions of the world that preach love. But for us, Jesus is teaching us what love is. Love is real. Love happens. is what holds us together. So as we go about our lives, we know and we can rest assured that we have been taught what love is. Love is a relationship with Jesus Christ. Love is a relationship with each other. Love is a time of knowing that it isn't going to stand still. Love is a time of understanding that it will transition. When we're confident in that, in our relationship with each other and in our relationship with Jesus Christ, then we know what love is, that it's going to transition, and that we can change and grow and be who God has intended us to be, in love with one another.